Welcome. Today we're going to talk about something you might not have heard of. A virus that lives quietly in the background. A silent threat that stays hidden from our daily view. It's called hantavirus. This isn't a new germ that has suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Rather, it's an old one that has been with us for a very long time, carried by common rodents like mice and rats. It's a powerful reminder that even in our modern clean world, nature holds secrets that can have a serious impact on our health. Hantavirus is a perfect example of a zoonotic disease, which simply means it's a sickness that can jump from animals to people, a bridge between their world and ours. So, how does a person actually get sick from hantavirus? It's not like catching a common cold from a friend who sneezes. The primary way this virus finds its way into the human body is through the air we breathe. Imagine a dusty old shed, an attic that hasn't been touched in years, or a cabin deep in the woods. These are the places where rodents often make their homes. When these infected animals leave behind their droppings, urine or saliva, the virus is present in those materials. As they dry, the virus can become airborne, attached to tiny dust particles. If a person enters that space and starts cleaning or disturbing the area, they can unknowingly breathe in these microscopic virus-laden particles. It is this act of inhalation that marks the beginning of a potential infection. The virus particles travel deep into the lungs, where they can begin to multiply and cause severe illness. It's a very subtle and almost invisible mode of transmission, which is why it's often called a silent threat. In much rarer cases, infection can occur if someone touches something contaminated with rodent waste, and then touches their eyes, nose, or mouth. A bite from an infected rodent can also transmit the virus, but this is an extremely uncommon event. The key takeaway is that the risk comes from enclosed, poorly ventilated spaces where rodents have been active. Unlike many other viruses that dominate our news headlines, hantavirus isn't something you're likely to catch from another person. This is a crucial point to understand. The illness it causes, known as Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, or HPS in the Americas, is a solitary battle. It's a disease of circumstance and environment, not of social contact. This is why we don't see widespread community outbreaks in the same way we do with flu or COVID-19. The story of hantavirus is one of accidental encounters, of humans stepping into the domain of rodents, and unknowingly crossing paths with a microscopic danger that has been waiting patiently in the dust. The story of hantavirus is not a recent one. Its roots stretch back decades, woven into the fabric of military history and scientific discovery. The virus first captured the serious attention of the global medical community during the Korean War in the early 1950s. Over 3,000 United Nations troops, mostly American soldiers, fell ill with a mysterious and frightening sickness. It caused high fevers, kidney failure, and widespread bleeding. At the time, doctors were baffled by this Korean hemorrhagic fever. They knew it was a serious infectious agent, but its source and identity remained a complete puzzle for many years. A ghost that haunted the battlefields long after the fighting stopped. It wasn't until 1976 that a breakthrough was finally made. A brilliant Korean virologist named Dr. Ho Wang Lee, driven by the memory of the devastating illness, dedicated his career to finding the cause. His persistent research paid off when he successfully isolated the virus from the lungs of a striped field mouse captured near the Hantan River. In honor of this location, which was central to the mystery, he named the virus Hantavirus. This discovery was monumental. It finally gave a name and a face to the invisible enemy that had plagued troops decades earlier, linking the strange illness directly to a rodent carrier and opening a new chapter in virology. Following this discovery, scientists began to realize that the hantavirus was just one member of a much larger family. Different but related hantaviruses were found in various rodent species all over the world, each causing different forms of disease. Then, in 1993, A startling outbreak occurred in the Four Corners region of the United States, where Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah meet. A number of previously healthy young people suddenly died from a rapid and severe respiratory failure. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, launched an urgent investigation, a race against time to understand this deadly new syndrome. The investigation led them to a new type of hantavirus, which they named the sin nombre virus, meaning the nameless virus. It was carried by the common deer mouse. This particular strain caused a different kind of illness than its Asian counterpart, Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, or HPS, a disease that primarily attacks the lungs. The outbreak was linked to an unusual increase in the deer mouse population, which was caused by heavy rainfall that led to an abundance of food for the rodents. This event firmly established hantavirus as a significant public health concern in the Americas and highlighted how environmental changes can directly influence the risk of rare diseases. The most effective way to protect yourself and your family from hantavirus is to focus on one simple goal: keeping rodents out of your living spaces. Prevention is truly the best medicine when it comes to this virus, because it breaks the chain of transmission at its source. The first and most crucial step is to seal up your home. Take a careful walk around the outside of your house, shed, and any other buildings on your property. Look for any cracks, holes, or gaps where a mouse could squeeze through. Remember, a mouse can fit through an opening as small as a dime, so be thorough. Use steel wool, cork, or a combination of both to plug these entry points, paying close attention to where utilities and pipes enter the building. Once you have secured the perimeter, the next focus should be on eliminating food sources and nesting sites that might attract rodents. This means maintaining a high standard of cleanliness inside and outside your home. Store all food, including pet food and birdseed, in thick plastic or metal containers with tight-fitting lids. Don't leave dirty dishes in the sink overnight, and promptly clean up any spilled food or crumbs from floors and countertops. Outside, keep your yard tidy. Trim back thick bushes and grass, and make sure any wood piles or garbage cans are stored at least 20 feet away from the house, as these are prime locations for rodents to build their nests. If you need to clean an area that may have been infested with rodents, such as a long unused shed, cabin, or attic, it is vital to do so safely. Never ever sweep or vacuum dry droppings. This action is extremely dangerous because it kicks up dust and aerosolizes the virus particles, making them easy to breathe in. Instead, you must wet the area down thoroughly. Start by ventilating the space, open all doors and windows for at least 30 minutes to allow fresh air to circulate. While wearing rubber gloves and a proper respirator mask, spray the droppings and any contaminated surfaces with a disinfectant or a bleach solution until they are fully soaked. After letting the disinfectant sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, you can then use paper towels to wipe up the contamination. Place the used paper towels and your gloves into a sealed plastic bag, and then place that bag inside another one before disposing of it in an outdoor trash bin. Afterwards, be sure to mop the floors and clean any other surfaces that might have been exposed. Finally, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water after you have removed your protective gear. Following these wet cleaning methods is the single most important safety measure you can take when dealing with potential rodent infestations. Understanding the symptoms of hantavirus is critical because, honestly, the illness starts in a very non-specific way, often mimicking a common case of the flu. In the early stages, which can occur anywhere from 1 to 8 weeks after exposure to the virus, a person might experience fever, chills, severe muscle aches, and fatigue. Headaches, dizziness, and abdominal problems such as nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea are also very common. At this point, it is nearly impossible to distinguish Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, or HPS, from other, more widespread respiratory illnesses based on symptoms alone. The key distinguishing factor is often a person's recent history and potential exposure to rodents. If you develop these flu-like symptoms, and you know you have recently been in an area where rodents might be present. For example, if you've been cleaning a dusty cabin, working in a barn, or have noticed signs of mice in your home, it is absolutely essential to seek medical attention immediately. When you visit a doctor or an emergency room, you must tell them about your symptoms and, crucially, inform them about your potential exposure to rodents. This piece of information can be the vital clue that helps doctors consider hantavirus as a possible diagnosis, allowing them to begin appropriate monitoring and supportive care much sooner. Early medical intervention is the best chance for a positive outcome. As the illness progresses, the truly dangerous phase of HPS begins, usually a few days after the initial symptoms appear. This is when the lungs start to fill with fluid, a condition known as pulmonary edema. The patient will begin to experience severe shortness of breath, feeling as though they are suffocating or drowning. A dry cough often develops, and the heart has to work much harder to pump blood through the congested lungs. This stage can develop with frightening speed, and it is a life-threatening medical emergency. Patients at this point require immediate hospitalization, often in an intensive care unit. Once a patient is hospitalized, the primary goal of treatment is to support the body's functions while it fights off the virus. There is no specific cure or antiviral medication that has been proven effective against hantavirus. Instead, treatment is entirely supportive. This typically involves giving the patient oxygen to help with breathing. In the most severe cases, the patient may need to be placed on a mechanical ventilator, a machine that breathes for them, to ensure their body gets enough oxygen. Doctors will also carefully manage the patient's fluid levels and blood pressure to help ease the strain on the heart and lungs, giving the body its best shot at surviving the viral assault. When we compare hantavirus to a virus like COVID-19, we are looking at two fundamentally different kinds of threats. The most significant difference lies in how they spread. COVID-19 is a master of human-to-human transmission. It spreads efficiently through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, talks, or even breathes, which is why it was able to cause a global pandemic and led to widespread lockdowns and mask mandates. Hantavirus, on the other hand, very rarely spreads between people. The primary route of infection is environmental, breathing in aerosolized particles from the waste of infected rodents. This means you are not going to catch hantavirus from sitting next to someone on a bus or talking to a colleague at work. This difference in transmission is precisely why hantavirus does not cause large-scale outbreaks or require public health measures like lockdowns. Hantavirus cases are sporadic and isolated, occurring one by one when an individual happens to disturb a contaminated environment. The risk is not based on how many people are sick in your community, but on whether you have come into contact with infected rodents. Because the virus does not sustain a chain of transmission from person to person, it cannot spread exponentially through a population. Its impact is localized and contained by its very nature, making it a personal environmental risk rather than a collective public health crisis. However, when we turn our attention to the severity of the illness, the picture changes dramatically. While COVID-19 can be very serious and has tragically claimed millions of lives, a large percentage of people who get infected experience mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, or HPS, is a different story. It is a much rarer disease, but it is far more deadly for those who contract it. The fatality rate for HPS is alarmingly high, hovering around 38%. This means that nearly 4 out of every 10 people who are diagnosed with the syndrome do not survive. The virus causes a rapid and aggressive assault on the lungs, leading to catastrophic respiratory failure. Finally, the medical response to these two viruses is also worlds apart. For COVID-19, scientists were able to develop effective vaccines and antiviral treatments in record time, providing powerful tools to prevent and fight the infection. For hantavirus, there is currently no vaccine available to prevent infection, nor is there a specific cure or antiviral drug to treat it. As mentioned, medical care is purely supportive. focusing on managing symptoms and keeping the patient alive while their own immune system attempts to clear the virus. This lack of specific treatments underscores why prevention, by controlling rodent populations and cleaning safely, remains the single most important defense against this silent but formidable threat.